Hello everyone and welcome to another season of Tech Webinars. This is webinar number 76 in our series. We are so glad that you're here with us today for the introduction to Promethean's ActivInspire software. Shout out to everyone out there who's coming to join us today for the next 45 minutes to an hour. A special shout out to a little boy named Reese and a lovely lady named Shalyn who might be watching from Hilton, New York.
Reese and Shalyn, woo!
Steve, I'm here with Steve Greenberg, who hosted last week's introduction to the Promethean Active Board webinar, and as always, Luke on the technical controls. Holding here our little friend Pete the Pig. He'll be joining us throughout the broadcast today, and we actually happen to have a special guest. We have a Firefly. Let's call him Sam today. So he might be flying around. If I start swatting, it could be because of that. Couple of notes before we get into the content today. If you're experiencing any issues with video feed or audio, such as the screen pauses, or my lips are moving but nothing's coming out, or I start to kind of twerk a little bit like this, that could be perhaps because of the bandwidth. We do have the option below me, kind of over here. You'll see a Ustream logo. If you hover your mouse over that, the default is high bandwidth. If you switch to low or 240, that should be a more efficient stream for you. Okay. If any questions, of course, there's a chat box to my left. Many of you have joined us early and have already been chatting back and forth through that mode of communication. Please keep that going. We've got several instructional technology specialists there to answer your questions and to help you out. If you came with us early, you were watching the scrolling credits, some of the specifics that were on those slides. We do have all of our future upcoming courses, in-person and online webinars at tech.com/events. You can sign up for future webinars and other courses through that method. This specific video will be archived. We're recording, and this will be archived available at tech.com/video. Other things that you saw there, we post every few days about anything latest and greatest in educational technology, tech.com/blog. So new things coming out there. Follow us on social media. Email us with any questions during or after the broadcast. You can reach us training@tech.com, and we will get back to you as soon as possible with an answer to your questions or with resources that you're needing. Anything that you need, just let us know. Afterwards, another one of the scrolling credit screens was this mugshot caption there with a couple of other issues. If you're looking for professional development credit, you will be able to get a 1-hour certificate by at the completion of the webinar, clicking the blue Provide Feedback button that is below me, kind of down here. Click that, answer a few questions, and you'll get a printable 1-hour certificate. The other screen was about Edmodo. Edmodo is our social learning network. We have a group set up specifically for all of our tech webinars. The code that you're going to use once you're inside and logged into Edmodo, the code you're going to use is B5I4JB. B5I4JB. That will be available after the webinar. That code, there will be the guys in the chat and ladies in the chat will provide that code for you. Keep in mind, Edmodo is going to be to continue the conversation, so don't worry about getting into that right now. Okay, don't worry about getting into that right now. Just keep in mind that afterwards you can follow and continue along with all sorts of great resources and conversations and questions through that mode. Coming up, I've got Stevie here reminding me that upcoming webinars, October 2nd will be the next one, all about social media in the classroom. Joe Sanfilippo will be hosting that one. And of course, our very own Steve Greenberg will be hosting on October 23rd. That will be using Prezi in the classroom. So Prezi online presentation tool with Steve Greenberg. Again, you can sign up for those at tech.com/events. I think that's all that I need in terms of the housekeeping and all the setup and what to look for after. Now we're going to go ahead and get into today's session, which is all about getting started with the Promethean ActivInspire software. So I'm going to, we've been doing some construction around here, we're working some things. I'm going to head downstairs using our new elevator in the studio to my computer, and I will see you there in just a second. Ding! Ding. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Introduction to the Promethean ActivInspire software. This is, you're probably here because you either just got a Promethean Active board in your classroom. You may be here because you saw Stevie's webinar last week and you were so excited about what we were covering that you wanted to go even further. Maybe you've had an Active board in your classroom for years and you're just looking for ways to further enhance that, the use of that. All of those are good things. Again, as a reminder, after the webinar, this is important, or I wouldn't repeat it. Remember to join our group on Edmodo if you want to continue the conversation. Just one more word about Edmodo. It's a great place to connect with other teachers and potentially use that again in your classroom. But the code, if you want to jot it down, I'm going to give you about 5 seconds, and I'm going to switch pages. B5I4JB. B5I4JB. Again, we will provide that after the webinar. And, of course, tech.com has all sorts of other ActivInspire resources, including Flipchart downloads based on the Common Core State Standards. Okay? Everyone's favorite words these days. Today I am unveiling a brand new word that we have patented here, and I'm going to call it the Techsperience. So this is today's Techsperience that you are about to become involved with. And Stevie,
Wait, so you're saying...
how did we come up with that Techsperience?
Well, I think it's a clever wordplay, possibly, of our company and the word experience.
Yeah, you see what we did there? We took tech, and then we took experience.
I like it.
And since you're here for a great learning experience, we combine that. So today's Techsperience
fantastic.
is going to include everything based on this theme. And I like doing things simply, so my theme of the day is going to be reduce, reuse, recycle. Today, back in my hometown of Rochester or Hilton, New York, today was trash day, and that made me think about, how can I theme this? Stevie really wanted me to do something with Miley Cyrus, but I voted him out, and I decided we're going to go with reduce, reuse, and recycle, okay? So, here's what I mean by this. I like to keep things simple. I like to keep things short and sweet. We're going to do these 3 things today. We are going to reduce your activity creation time. So I'm going to talk about really quick ways to enhance your instruction using the Active board. Okay? So this is going to be basically a virtual quick start guide and in using the Active board. Okay? Beyond that, we're going to reuse. Okay? You're going to want to reuse your creations. You're going to save your work. Okay? We're going into electronic work. Okay? These are digital files, so we can save these things and reuse them and beyond. So I'm going to talk about how to save your work and even share it perhaps. And last but not least, we're going to recycle. We're going to recycle older materials and files that might be in other formats. We're going to recycle materials that we have. We don't want to start from the beginning if we don't have to. You may have old documents or old PowerPoints that you've been using and you want to keep using that. We encourage you to use what you have. Just, of course, use this new tool that you have and marry those together and see what you come up with. Okay, so we're going to reduce, reuse, and recycle. How many of you might have been thinking about trash day? I know Stevie was. Okay.
I always do.
So here's what we're going to do. Here's the plan today. I'm going to take you into ActivInspire once again. I've got some pre-made pages. So if this is your first time with us, this is really how tech differentiates ourselves from others. Is we're going to show you what can be done, then we're going to break it down and give you the confidence so that you can become not an expert, Stevie, but a techspert.
I had a chance and I blew it.
We'll get you there, Steve. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to go over to, we're going to go down to the computer. I took the stairs that time. We're going to go back down to the computer room and start to talk about building some pages. Okay. Okay, first things first, before I even get into, I'm already in an ActivInspire file now, and if you watched last week, if you didn't watch last week, go back and watch it. Stevie was amazing.
Thank you.
But the basic interface of ActivInspire, of course, gives you your big space in the middle, which is your workspace. You've got your toolbox on the right, and you've got your browsers on the left. Okay, so right now I'm in an ActivInspire file. I've got my pages, my page browser on the left. We're seeing the content in the middle, and I've got my toolbox on the right-hand side. Now, there's a couple of things that I like to do, and in terms of reducing your activity creation time, there's a couple of things that I like to do to make my life easier, to make things more familiar for me so that I'm ready to go and I can work faster. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually go to a blank file, and ActivInspire allows you to open up multiple instances of ActivInspire by tabbing your files. So if I have 6 periods that I'm teaching today, I could actually have 6 files open. The way I'm going to do that is from within ActivInspire with one file open. I'm going to choose File, and then just File, New Flipchart. And that's going to give me a new tab up here called Untitled. Okay? And then it's going to give me a blank space with one page on it. Okay? Now last week, Stevie talked a little bit about the toolbox and a couple of the real basic things. But the first thing I notice when I come into ActivInspire, and I'm going to actually switch over to the pen tool because you've probably experienced this before. When you first come into ActivInspire, the pen is the default tool. Okay? So if I were to come in to school and I open up ActivInspire, ready to take some notes, this is going to be good for me because it's going to open up to a blank page, going to give me a pen tool, I'm ready to write. Okay. And we're ready to go, taking some notes. However, if I'm opening a file that already has content in it, or I'm opening a file from my computer, it's very difficult to write using your mouse or a trackpad. So when I'm doing my planning, I don't really like when I open it up and it defaults to the pen. Okay, so it's a little bit of work for me to go and then switch to the Select tool, which is the arrow, which allows me to select objects and move them. Okay. So what I like to do, and this is a one-time deal, right now we're about to customize just a couple of things, and I'm going to share with you my preferences. I'm not going to say that you have to do these things, but based on experience that I've had with teachers and my own personal preferences, this is what I like to show. Number one, most softwares that I work with, and even when you think about internet browsers, most times the toolbars are located where, Stevie?
On the top of the side?
At the top of the screen. Steve, he's doing great, everybody. Let's give him some encouragement in the chat box. He's a little bit nervous, but he's doing great. Yes, toolbars are typically at the top. Now, Stevie showed you last week that this toolbar as is over here is floating, which means I can move it from side to side. And that's nice. But eventually, it might get in the way. Because the way that I work, I like things to be in a specific spot. So what I'm going to do is show you how very quickly I'm going to take this toolbar and I'm going to look at this icon right here at the very top. There's 3 little icons on that. I'm going to hit this one, and I'm going to choose to dock top. Okay, and that's going to take my toolbar and put it at the top so that's familiar. You will notice before I leave here, you will also notice that dock bottom is there. So those of you that have young students in your classroom or the board is mounted a little bit higher than you'd like, you can actually dock your toolbar along the bottom, and that will make things a lot easier to access. I'm just going to click dock top, and right there, number one, it gives me a little more space on that right-hand side to an extent, and then it puts my toolbar at the top. So that's one thing that I like a lot. There's 2 more things that I want to talk about. One of them is when I'm the pen, I'm going to just do a little bit more writing here. I want you to look at my pen as I write. And there's that annoying little pen icon. Okay? And it goes with me wherever I write. Okay? I've had a lot of teachers tell me, or ask me, Tim, is there any way I can get rid of that, or move that, or change that, or do something with it because it kind of gets in the way. So what I'm going to do is show you exactly that, and then while I'm showing you that, I'm going to show you just 2 other things. Okay? So here's what we're going to go. I'm going to go back up to that File menu, and I'm going to choose File, and then I'm going to choose Settings. Okay, so I'm going to go down in the toolbar here under File, and I'm going to go choose Settings. Okay? File and Settings there. Settings brings me up into the settings box, and you'll see that there are some tabs in here. I'm just going to stick with, for right now, I'm going to stick in the settings tab, which should be open. I'm going to select, in this list on the left, I'm going to select the option that says Tools, because I want to edit how a tool works. I'm going to click on Tools right here, and that's going to bring me into the tool settings. Now, there's two things that I'm going to look at here. Okay. Number one is this box that says Default Tool, and you'll see that it's pen. What that means is when you open ActivInspire, your default tool will be the pen. And as I mentioned, if you're opening up a blank page and you want to just start taking notes, that's fine. But when you start to create things and edit things and do more things that we're going to show you later, pen can sometimes is not the one that you want. The other one is going to be pen cursor that I just mentioned. Okay, and you'll see that there's a drop-down box next to that as well. What I'm about to do is I'm going to change the option under default tool. I'm going to change that to select, and that's going to mean that when I open the program, I'm going to be a select tool, or the arrow, where I can click on things and move things. Okay? The pen cursor option is going to allow me to actually get rid of that pen cursor altogether. So here's what I'm going to do. Click there, and I'm going to choose select. I'm going to click here, and I'm going to choose off. The other option is below. I'm going to choose done. Now what I have is when I select the pen tool, which I have, and I write September, now I don't see that pen floating around the tip of my pen as I write. Okay, so that's a big like aha moment. Thank you, I can get rid of that. Okay. And it's just that simple. Now the good news is you don't have to do that every day. You're not going to have to go and change that. Tomorrow when you log in, you open up ActivInspire, your default tool will be the select tool, and your pen, when you choose the pen, will be just that little dot. You won't really notice it. Okay, so it gets it out of the way. There's one more change I want to make. So I'm going to repeat that same process. I'm going to go back to File and then Settings. And this time, I want to choose Flipchart. And there's a specific reason I'm going to do this, and I'm going to talk about this in just a few minutes, but I want to do all the setting stuff now. What I'm going to end up doing is coming over here to the world color. Okay, and you'll see that there's a little blue box there. The world color is, do you see those blue bars to the right side, to the right and left side of my Flipchart page? That is considered the world. Okay, and the world color does not have to be blue. I'm going to give you a little bit of a hint here. The reason I want to change this is because I'm going to utilize that space to hide things. And because I use black text often, I'm going to make the world color black. I'm going to click done. Okay? As soon as I click somewhere over here, let's say on the browser to pin that, that should change. It should change on its own after a couple of seconds here. But now my world color is black. All right, back up. This elevator thing is working out perfectly. I'm glad that they did that. Okay. What I want to do is just recap there. Those 3 setting changes, remember, those are one-time deals and those are personal preferences. There's a lot of things in there that you can kind of play with, and those are just ways to customize your experience. I like my toolbar at the top. I don't like the pen icon floating around, and I like my world color to be black. Okay. So what I'm going to do is we're going to now transition into, once those are set, I'm going to go ahead and transition to building a couple of things using content. And I know we have a question coming in, so I'm going to look over at our state-of-the-art teleprompter that gives me our questions, and I'll actually have Steve read it for us here.
The question we had is from Stephanie, and the question is, Stephanie has 2 pens that both come with the ActivInspire board. Can 2 students use the pens at the same exact time?
Okay, so you have, right, so you have the student pen and the teacher pen, technically. Okay, so you probably have the gray one, and then the dark gray one, and then a light gray one. Okay? Depending on the board, what you can do is there is a dual user mode or a dual pen mode, and that's located, I'll actually go over to the computer and show you how. Okay, so let me go downstairs. If you click on the Tools menu, and who's this question from, so I can give a shout out?
Stephanie.
Stephanie, okay, so Stephanie, when you have those two pens, in the Tools menu, you'll notice if you click Tools, the third option down says Dual User, okay, Dual User, and that's exactly how you're going to be able to use two pens at once. Okay, so Tools, Dual User, great question. And that is the power, everyone. That is the power, everyone, of live television. Okay? Question comes in, able to answer it right away. For those of you watching at home, Sam the Fly is really getting on Luke's nerves over here. So if you see somebody, if you see him flying across the screen, he's really trying to get the fly out of the way. All right, let's go ahead back to the computer, and I'm going to take the stairs this time. I'm going to switch back over to my webinar file here and go to the next page here. And this page is just about done, but there's one feature I want to talk about specifically here. This page has what elements on it? Stevie, my #1 student over here. What elements are on this page, Stevie?
I see text.
You see text, very good. And what else do you see?
I see a shape.
You see a shape. You see this big rectangle, and I told you what it was.
Yes.
I know that a little boy named Reese out there knows how many sides a rectangle has.
I'm sure if he answered quickly, he would say 4.
I'm sure he would say 4. Okay. So this page, very simple, has text and a shape on it. Okay. And there's a couple things that the shape does. Number one, the shape calls your attention, obviously, to the top. Okay, that's basically what the shape is there for. It gives a little bit of some depth to the page and says, here's the instructions. Okay. The other thing is the text. Okay. So what I want to do with this page is very quickly show you how do I get text onto a page, and then we'll transition into drawing shapes. Okay. How do I get text onto a page? Well, from the board, we've already seen that if you come to your classroom and you've got your board, you pick up your Activ pen, and you can write on the board using handwriting. Okay. That's obviously one way to add content to your page. The next way is to type the text. Okay. So typing the text is as easy as clicking or tapping and typing. So what I'm going to do is I've got 3 examples of simile metaphor on this page. I'm going to add a 4th example, and in order to do that, I'm going to click and just start typing. So now what happens is, by default, because I haven't really typed anything, or the last thing I typed was Arial size 14, and a couple of things happened. As soon as I started typing, my text started to appear right after the spot that I clicked. The other thing that happened is up under my toolbar, and even if you decide to keep your toolbox on the right-hand side, this text toolbar will appear at the top of the screen. I see that Arial size 14. Now text is going to remember, so whatever the last text box you were in, or I was in on this computer, must have been Arial size 14. So what I'm going to do is just simply double click. Simply double click and type it again because I accidentally erased it. So Steve is... All right, this time I'm going to drag to highlight.
That's hurtful, Tim.
You are as funny, but rocks are funny.
Oh, all right.
I think rocks are funny. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and bump this up to 36 because I believe that's the size that the other ones are. I ended up with these extra pieces down here, and that's just one of those things that on our webinar screen specifically, but it happens to me in the classroom too, is you kind of get clicky, or you're trying to do too much too fast and you end up clicking on something. All right, so I end up with this extra stuff here. So what I'm going to do is just click and drag and then just hit my delete key. That gets those out of there. Okay. Now, so I can click and I can type. Another way that I can get text in, and I made this emphasis about saving time, reducing the time it takes. Well, a lot of these things, specifically text examples, and I want to bring those into ActivInspire because it's kind of like, when I'm getting started here, it's like riding a bike. The more you practice, the better you'll be. So the more stuff I can get into ActivInspire rather than just leaving it where it is. So for example, I'm going to go to, I have a web page open here that has a list of examples of similes and metaphors. Okay, my tendency would be to, oh great, here's a great list on the web, I'll just show that and we'll talk about it. Okay, but what I really want to do is I want to go ahead and bring this into ActivInspire, because then there's so much more that I can do with it in terms of customizing it. So this makes me think of Luke right here. That guy is as nutty as a fruitcake. Okay, what I'm going to do is, let's assume that this content is somewhere else. Well, what can I just right-click and copy, and come back to ActivInspire, and then right-click and paste. Okay, that's going to paste it up at the top of the screen. It came in as, if it comes in as a different size, there's two things you can do with it actually. I can double-click on it so that I get into that text toolbar. Okay, and I can highlight it and then just change it to the right font, or just to give us a little preview of what else I can do in terms of saving time. Hey, I just need to make this a little bit bigger. If I click once on the object, you're going to notice that all objects that you select are going to have all of these little icons. And these icons over here, let me just select this. These two icons right here, these stars, the star with the up arrow that's big and the star with the down arrow that's small, those are just quick make it bigger or make it smaller. So what I'm going to do is actually use that. I'm just going to click the big star a few times, and then, okay, that's about as big as the other ones. Okay? So I could sit here and type all of these, or I could just copy and paste, bring them in from somewhere else. That'll save me some time. The last way that I can bring in text is I can use a feature called, or it's actually a tool, it's considered a tool, but I like it, it's more of a feature, is handwriting recognition. So I'm going to use the Tools menu, and I'm going to look down where it says handwriting recognition. And that's right up here. And if I choose that, what that does is it makes me, or allows me to write, and then everything I write is going to automatically change to typed text. Okay? So if I say Luke is a nice guy, okay, you'll see that every time I write and I pause a little bit, it changes my handwriting into typed text. And then as I go along, you actually get the last one that you do, or after each one, it actually gives you a drop-down menu. So if your handwriting isn't quite so neat and the recognition is a little bit off, okay, there is a drop-down menu next to each item. And if you hit that, it'll actually give you some alternatives. Okay? So that's handwriting recognition, and you'll see that because I paused a couple of times, it broke up that sentence. So this is really good for kind of brainstorming lists and things like that. If you're really smooth and quick, you can actually write entire sentences, and it will recognize the entire thing for you. But that's another way to just really quickly clean up the handwriting that you're doing. So if you have less than elementary school teacher, let's say, handwriting, then handwriting recognition could be your option. Okay? The other element on this page is the shape, and that was just something to call attention. Okay, I'm just going to move these over here. Something to call attention to items. In order to make a shape, to do this, what I'm going to do is first I'll delete it, and then I'll show you how to make it again. So I'm going to select the shape itself and then delete it. In order to insert a shape, I'm looking at the Shapes tool in the toolbar. That's this one right here. As soon as I click that, I'm actually going to get another toolbar that drops down below it. And these are not drag and drop shapes. What you're going to do is you're going to select the shape that you want to draw. You're going to choose a fill color in that same area. I'm going to choose the fill color over here. Okay. If you don't like those fill colors, simply right-click on that area, and that will bring you more of them. Okay. So I'm going to choose a fill color, something nice and bright. And then the color palette at the top of the screen, this is going to be for the outline color. But as soon as I do this, I'm going to choose my rectangle. So I'm just going to select it by tapping on it, and then I become a drawing tool. So in order to draw shapes, I'm going to click and just drag across the page until I'm happy with the shape. Now obviously, something happened here. Because of the order in which I did this, I put this shape on top of the text. So what I want to do is I want to get this shape behind the text. So I'm going to click on my select tool. I'm going to click on the shape, and in these object toolbars, the next section, sorry for the movement there, the next two little buttons on the object toolbar are the order buttons, and this is going to show you that you can move an object forward or backwards. So what I have here is I've got this button, and if you hover over them, you'll see that the one that is selected, send backwards. So that's what I want. I want to send it backwards, and the other one is bring forward. I want to send this backwards, but because I have a lot of separate boxes, I might have to tap that just a bunch of times, and there you go. Okay, it just keeps sending it backwards, and then there is the shape. So we're starting to go a little bit beyond, it's all about adding content first. We got to know how to add the content. Now that we know how to add the content, now let's go ahead and look at how does this take me further in terms of interactivity. Okay? So let's go ahead and take a look. On my next page, I've got an example of Stevie's work here. We were talking about the Pythagorean theorem the other day, and the question was to find x here, and Stevie,
I think I'm pretty clever.
Thought he was very clever. The example was find x, and he circled x and said, here it is. And I thought, hey, Stevie, you know what? Let's try using the Pythagorean theorem here. So let's try using a squared plus b squared equals
Let's give it a
c squared.
shot.
Okay. Really quickly, how to get exponents there is you can use superscripts. When you click into a text box, I'll show you here, when you're in a text box, there are these superscript and subscript buttons, okay, by the bold, italics, and underline. So that is actually a quick way to get, for you math teachers out there, to get exponents in there. But he's going to try using a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So what I want to do is bring Stevie up, and he'll actually calculate this by becoming a pen. But I want Stevie to also I want you guys to look at, there's a yellow arrow here. And there's a yellow arrow here, and this is going to bring us back to why did I change my world color to black? That's going to be revealed in just a second. But Stevie's going to walk over to the board, and he's going to say, okay.
That is how I talk.
He's going to say 4 squared plus 3 squared equals c squared, okay, or in this case, x. Okay, so Stevie, really quickly, test your skills.
Yes, I'm ready.
4 squared is?
16.
16.
Oh, yeah.
3 squared is?
9.
9. Okay. 16 plus 9 equals?
25.
25. So 25 in this case, we're not squaring 25, but we're going to take the square root of 25, right? So what gives us 25 when squared?
I believe it's 5.
It would be 5.
Oh, yeah.
So c, or x, equals 5, says Stevie. Okay. Now, there's a thing that I like to talk about. I've heard it a few times here and there, but it's something called feedback. Not only feedback, but immediate feedback. I want Stevie to see that he's got the correct answer. So what I did earlier was I changed my world color to black, and you'll see that the text that I have here says, Steve, try using it. That's black, and my default text color is black. Mm-hmm. If Stevie likes to have pink text, and he likes his world to be pink, so as long as those two are the same, I've got a real easy way to hide information. I'm going to have Stevie become a select tool. He's going to pull this arrow, and magically comes the answer, x equals 5 centimeters. Okay? So what I've done is I've created a simple pull tab kind of check using the area off the page, and I've done this by using a technique called grouping. Okay? I know how to add text. We can type x equals 5 centimeters. Also on the last page, we know how to draw shapes. Okay? So what I would do here is I'm just going to ungroup these for a second. So what I did earlier was I added this text box, x equals 5 centimeters. I drew a arrow, because in the Shapes tool there's an arrow in there. And then in order for these two to move together, okay, just leave a little space, I'm going to click. I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to click. I'm going to start clicking right about there. Say above and to the left. I'm going to drag across. And as soon as I get across those two things in that slightly grayed box, I'm going to release. Okay? And you might pick up, I think I'm picking up, actually this is a good thing to show. I'm picking up more than just those two things because my object handles go way out there. So I want to make sure that I only have those two things. So I'm just going to move this picture out of the way. There. So I've got just these two things. Now I want these to move together. So in order to do that, there's that button that I just pressed. Okay. That's the grouped button. When you select at least two objects, you'll have the opportunity to select that. It's yellow. That means these two things are grouped, which means when I move these things, they will move together. And again, because I'm using black text, the world is black, I can hide that information off of here. Okay. One last thing with this page is I just moved this image, and I said that this was Stevie's work. This is actually a picture that was taken off of an actual test. Because I used an example out of Stevie, I took a picture and saved it to my computer, but how did I get it into ActivInspire? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete that picture and show you exactly how I did it. Whenever I want to add something that's not already in ActivInspire, if I can't copy and paste it, if that doesn't make sense, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Insert option. And pictures are media. Okay? So Insert Media. Insert Media. That's going to bring me into my computer. I'm going to look for my flash drive where the picture is. And then there's the Find X picture. This is a picture I have on my computer. And I'm going to choose Open. And there is the image that comes in. If I select the image and use the handles, I can position it and resize it. Okay? And that is Steve's work. Now, along the way, I talked about saving work. I don't want to lose this work, or maybe I want to pick up tomorrow where I left off. Just remember, think about any other software or any other files that you might have experience with. Is what do? You do file save. Sometimes we get confused with the fact that we're working on this interactive whiteboard, that they're a different type of file, and it's really not. You're working on a computer. The board is an extension of the computer. So what we can do is we can choose File Save and put that file anywhere else where we can open it later. So let's go ahead and do that. Just to save changes here, I'm going to do a file. I'm going to do a Save As just to change the name a little bit. And then click Save. So now I've got my changes saved. Okay. What I'm going to do now that that's saved, is I'm going to shift gears to the next step and talk about the digestive system. I'm going to do a little experiment here with Pete the Pig, because we're talking about the digestive system, and I felt like Pete the Pig was would do well with this. Whoa, look out! Sorry. When we're talking about the digestive system, and the digestive system is all about when we ingest food, our bodies digest the food going through a process, and we're going to learn about that today. So Pete the Pig ingests the food, and then he's going to digest the food right over at Stevie. Oh,
dude.
All right. So there's an example of how I might maybe lead into this, but I have a better example, and I'm going to use the Activ software to show you the better example. So let's go over and check it out. Okay. So I've got a page set up here again with an image. So just like I brought the image of Stevie's work in, I inserted an image that I had about the digestive system. My question here is, what do you know about it? And I like to lead in with video. Of course, every child loves to watch video. Students love, when I was in school, Any day where you saw the TV cart brought in with the VCR on it, you knew that was going to be a great day?
Oh, yeah.
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a video to lead in here. Now, because I'm in ActivInspire, I don't have the video saved. The video is actually somewhere else. It's actually on YouTube. And I don't like to have to toggle too much or even rely on having that page already open. What I've done is I've manufactured this page so that when I get to this page, when I open my file, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my picture, and it's going to bring me to a video. So, all right, guys, we're going to talk about the digestive system. I'm going to just simply click once on the video, and just like that, it has launched YouTube, and it has launched those annoying ads that we have to watch, but we can skip it in one more second.
Okay, everything seems normal. Oh, and I see you're new to Obamacare as well.
Yeah, I saw the ads and I figured why not?
Take your pants off.
Okay. Hey, Anna, what did you have to eat this morning?
Pancakes.
Where did it go after you ate it? What
Go
happened?
down, 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 go around, goes out of our. Some goes in the blood.
Some goes in the blood, then where does it go?
Nose.
Your nose?
Toes.
Toes?
And the fingers.
And the fingers? That's right.
All right, so in the next step, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to simply click back to my ActivInspire file, and I'm back here. Okay? Now, all we saw there was I went directly from ActivInspire by clicking an image out to a video that I wanted to show, and then I came right back to ActivInspire. Now I can continue with the lesson. So I want to talk about how I made that happen, because oftentimes, especially when you're just getting started, we've got to reuse, we've got to recycle other things. We want to reach out. It can't just be all about ActivInspire. At the same time, ActivInspire provides you with a great spot to centralize everything. So kind of make a dashboard. If you've got resources anywhere on the web or even anywhere on your computer, you can link to them simply by pushing a button. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. I'm going to go this way this time. What I have here is on the page, I've got some text and I've got an image. Okay. The important part about linking is all about having a starting point and a destination. Okay. My starting point is ActivInspire. My destination, Stevie, is?
The internet.
In this case, it's internet. In this case, it's YouTube. So what I'm going to do is I need to go out to the internet. Every spot on the internet has its own place, its own address, just like Stevie has an address.
I do.
I'm going to ask you what your address is, but I think you'll get loads and loads of fan mail, so we won't report that live on TV.
That paparazzi was after me.
But the paparazzi, of course. So this video is at this spot. So I'm going to recreate how I did this. I found the video, and what I'm going to do is, since this video right here has this specific URL, I just need to copy that. Once I've copied that, I go back to ActivInspire. And now what I want to do is I want to insert that link or attach it to something else. Now I could simply, I'll just move this out of the way, I could simply right click and paste, but what happens here is it just comes in as text, and it's not clickable, it's not hyperlinked, it just comes in as text. So, and that's not what I want. Okay. And I'm getting attacked by the fly. Okay, so if you hear my swatting, that's just trying to get him. All right, so I don't want that. I want to actually just have I want to be able to put my own content on here and then decide, okay, when you click this, it will take us there. So I'm going to use the image as an example. I've got the web address copied to my clipboard. This is going to be another instance where we're going to use the insert menu. So up in insert. This time, underneath media, I'm going to choose link. And when I choose link, it pops out with 3 other options. We have future webinars that we will perhaps talk about some of the other options, but specifically the embedded HTML. But the one I'm interested here is because I'm going to the internet, I'm going to choose website. Just while we're here, if this was a Google Earth file or a Word document, you could attach it and it would just launch those programs in the same way that it launches the browser. But in this case, so it's insert, link, website. It's going to bring me to this box where it says enter website to link to. I'm going to paste that YouTube address. And then my options along the bottom are to add link as text. If I were to leave it as text at this point, then it would bring the hyperlinked text in. But I still don't want to use that address down there. I want to keep it clean and use stuff that I have. So I'm going to go all the way to the right-hand side of this menu and choose Existing Object. And when you choose Existing Object, that button with the 3 dots underneath it will illuminate. And if you click that, that brings you into all of the objects on this page. And I know that there is a title, and that's going to be text 8. I know that there is some text at the bottom. That's going to be text 9. And I know that there's an image. That's image 1. And when I click on that image 1, it's going to show me that there's the thumbnail of the image. And I'm going to choose OK. And I'll choose OK one more time. And that is it. I have just copied a web link and brought it in, pasted it, attached it to an existing object on my page. And now this is a clickable button, which, because this is the web, it will launch my default browser and will plug in that address for me and bring me right there so that I can check out that resource, go on, research the web, whatever the context is, and then when I'm done, I just simply come back to ActivInspire and I've got the other content set, perhaps using some sort of check for understanding, using some pull tabs for feedback, or many other features that are available at tech.com/video. We've got other brief techniques. Okay, so there's a couple more things I want to talk about within this short webinar to get you going, and that involves again the recycling process. What else can I bring in? I've just brought in a web link, but I've got all of these. I've got PowerPoints, and I want to make them more interactive. Or we've got all these state tests or these sample tests that are in PDF format, and I want to mark those up, but I want to use some really cool tools. How can I do that? It's really easy, and let's go take a look. What I'm going to do is I have 2 things in mind. I've got a PowerPoint on the digestive system, and what I'm going to do here is say, if I've got PowerPoints and I want to make them more interactive. Let's face it, PowerPoint is great in some ways, but it tends to get real text heavy, and it's just visual. Okay, the Promethean board, the Activ board, allows us to bring in content and make it touchable, makes it tangible. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to choose the File menu, and I'm going to choose Import because I want to bring in something else. When I choose Import, I'm looking specifically at the first 3 options here. 2 of them are PowerPoint. 1, PowerPoint has images. Basically what this means is you're just going to do the same thing you did in PowerPoint. It's just going to be visual. You won't be able to manipulate individual objects. Okay? However, if there's really heavy formatting in images, that could be an option, but it's going to require some work on your end anyway. So since I'm planning on using the content that's already there and manipulating it, I want to choose PowerPoint as objects. I'm importing PowerPoint as objects. What this is going to do is going to bring me into my computer. It's going to say, where is it? And it's going to look for PowerPoint files. We'll see that I have the digestive system PowerPoint here. I'm going to choose Open. And And if PowerPoint was installed on the computer that we just brought in prior to this broadcast, then that would actually open up PowerPoint, and it would bring in each slide as a different page in a flip chart. And there's usually some formatting issues. We'll have a video up at tech.com/video in terms of how to bring in PowerPoints. But essentially what it does, it allows you to reuse or recycle that content with just making some small changes. You'll get all of the content in there, and you'll be able to insert new slides with some interactive content, so you can provide some formative assessment perhaps as you go through. Okay?
Live TV, folks.
That's the power of live TV and replacing technology minutes before we go live. I do want to show you the same process, but how PDFs work, because we want to be able to mark things up and have those, and you kind of digitize those things and be able to reuse them. All right, so let's come on over to the computer and do that, and then we'll wrap things up for the day. Same steps. I'm going to choose File, Import, And this time I'm going to choose PDF. Okay. And let that be a lesson that if you do not have PowerPoint on the computer, then it won't, that particular process won't work, because it does have to actually open PowerPoint in order to scan those pages. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in math assessment back in 2009. This is the math regions. When I click open, it's going to give me some options down here to import. Do I want to import this to a new flip chart, the beginning of the current flip chart, or the end of the current flip chart? And then right above that, it allows me to choose pages. This is a long PDF file that I'm about to bring in. Now, if this was a a lesson that involved just a couple of questions in that assessment, and I only needed the content from pages 6 to 7, I could actually declare that here, and it would only bring in pages 6 to 7. And then I could say that I want it to be at the end of the current flip chart, which would bring it into a flip chart that I already have built. Okay, so we don't have to, it doesn't have to be separated so much. We can integrate these tools very nicely here. So just because I talked about it, I'm going to do that. I'm going to say that I want from page 5 to 8. And I asked Stevie in our history class the other day, I asked Stevie how long World War II lasted, and he told me that it lasted from page 27 till about page 45, okay, quoting the textbook. I'm going to just go ahead and do this to a new flip chart. This is going to bring in these 3 or 4 pages of this file. I'm going to click import. And just like that, very nicely, those specific pages of that PDF are now in ActivInspire. And I've got all these tools, the pen tools, the highlighter tools. I can bring in some shapes if it involves manipulatives. I can see that this question here deals with connecting points. I can use lines to make straight lines. My only concern here is when an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper comes into my wide format board, I get very skinny pages. So the very quick fix for this is going to be in the upper right hand corner of your ActivInspire screen when you're bringing in things like PDFs or anything that's an 8.5 by 11 oriented thing. Best Fit is going to typically give you the full screen, so it wants to give you the full length of that PDF. But I want to get a better quality view of it, and I want it to be larger on the screen. So what I'm going to choose here is, in that drop down, I'm going to go from Best Fit to Width. And when I fit to Width, that's going to really fill that page. So the other thing I can do is I can unpin my browser up here and then really take advantage of the entire board that I have up in the front of the classroom. And then obviously I can scroll on this and then utilize some of the tools that are available to me, such as lines. So we've done a lot in just a little bit about a time. We're approaching an hour, and time always flies when you're having fun. No pun intended because of the fly here, time flying. But we're so glad that you joined us today, and we are looking forward to our scheduling out more ActivInspire specific webinars. We really do hope that if you enjoyed this, if you got something out of this, please provide feedback underneath the blue button. Provide feedback. Give us some feedback what you thought. You'll also be able to get your 1-hour professional development certificate by doing that. Tell a friend. Anyone that has ActivInspire, tell a friend, hey, Tech gives webinars, these free webinars, and the content is great. And come back and see us. Come back and see us. Always keep us in mind. Tech.com/events. Don't forget to go to Edmodo and join our group. B5I4JB is the code. Again, it's B5I4JB. For everyone here at Tech, I'm Tim, Stevie, Luke, Pete the Pig. Stevie has one final announcement to make, or he's just going to shoot that, he's going to digest that Pete the Pig thing at me.
Coward.
Live on TV, so you guys can all be witnesses. But again, we're going to keep the chat going. I'm going to jump back into that chat as well. That's a good, like I said, this was the kind of virtual quick start guide to you for introduction to ActivInspire. Thanks for watching.